My name is Cale Santino, and I was absolutely 100% not staring at Ren Ashfield. Maybe I was staring, a little, but only because he was standing right in front of the school notice board, blocking the thing I needed to read, and he had absolutely no idea I existed, which was fine. That was totally fine. Ren Ashfield was the kind of boy that people made songs about. Not the sad kind, the annoying kind, the kind where the lyrics are all golden hair and perfect smile, and everyone is just so in love, and you want to roll your eyes but you cannot, because he actually is kind of stupidly beautiful. He was laughing at something his friend Marcus said. His laugh was loud and easy, like he owned all the air in the hallway. He probably did. He owned most things at Westgate High, the basketball team, the top locker, the group of girls who sent him cupcakes every Valentine's Day. And apparently also the entire space in front of the notice board. Move, I said under my breath to no one. He didn't move. I shifted my bag on my shoulder and walked up to the board, trying to squeeze past him. My elbow caught his arm, his phone slipped, he caught it barely. And turned around with this slow, lazy blink, like I had personally offended him by existing in the same zip code. Watch it, he said. You're blocking the board, I said back. He looked at me, I looked at him, his friends looked at both of us. There was a full second of silence. Then Marcus, tall, big-mouth Marcus, grinned and said, "Oh, it's Cale, the kid from the scholarship block." I hated that phrase, scholarship block, like where you lived in the dorms to find everything you were. Ren said nothing, he just stepped aside like I was a vending machine that had been rude to him. And went back to his conversation. I read the board, found my name on the science fair partner list, and then stopped breathing. Ren Ashfield, my partner was Ren Ashfield. I looked at the board again, I read it 3 times, his name was right next to mine. And alphabetical, and completely devastating. The universe had a very sick sense of humor. I turned to walk away and nearly walked into Priya, my best friend, who was already grinning like she had planned this personally. "Don't," I said. "I didn't say anything, you were about to say something horrifying." "I was going to say good luck," she said, putting her hands up, but her eyes were doing that thing where they danced. "Also, the sophomore girls have a group chat, and apparently they have a betting pool on whether you'll survive 1 full week with him. That's insane, the odds are not in your favor." I went to class, I sat down, I stared at the ceiling. I thought about requesting a partner change, then I thought about how that would look, Cale Santino, scholarship kid, afraid of being near the school's golden boy. No, I would not give anyone that satisfaction, I would handle this. What I did not expect was that by Friday, I would be standing in the middle of the school courtyard with my hand raised, with 30 people counting down, and Ren Ashfield looking at me with an expression I could not name. It started on Wednesday, that was the day I found out that Ren Ashfield had a game. A very specific, very stupid game that his friends played with new people. They called it the Dare Board. Someone wrote a dare on a slip of paper, put it in a box, and pulled it out at lunch. If your name came up, you did the dare or you owed the group a public embarrassment. My name should not have come up, I was not part of their group, but apparently Marcus thought it would be funny to add my name while I was waiting at the lunch counter nearby, and by the time I turned around with my tray, the slip of paper in Ren's hand said, "Cale slaps Ren, full contact, courtyard, Friday." The whole table went quiet, then they all looked at me. I wanted to say no, I wanted to throw my tray at Marcus specifically, but Priya was at the table too, she had been dragged there by a mutual friend, and her eyes said, "Do not let them see you back down." So I looked at Ren looked at me, he raised one eyebrow slowly, like he was daring me to dare him back. Fine, I said, that was my first mistake. Friday came and the courtyard filled up faster than I had ever seen it fill for anything, faster than fights, faster than confessions. Faster than that time a pigeon got into the cafeteria. Word had spread, 30, maybe 40 people were standing in a loose circle, phones out. Priya stood next to me. You don't have to do this. I already said yes, you can unsay it. That is not a thing. Ren walked into the circle from the other side. He looked calm, perfectly, infuriatingly calm. He stood in front of me, tilted his chin up slightly, and the crowd started counting, 5, 4, 3, 2. I raised my hand, I swung it, it connected with his cheek. Not hard, more like a real slap than a stage one, but not cruel either. The sound snapped across the courtyard, the crowd went wild, and then the crowd went completely silent, because Ren Ashfield, golden boy, school heartthrob, most liked person in Westgate High, turned his face back slowly. His cheek was pink, his eyes were wide, not angry, not embarrassed, something else entirely. And in a voice that only I could hear, only I was standing close enough, he whispered again, that felt too good. I stopped breathing, the crowd thought he had said something funny, they cheered, Marcus howled. Priya grabbed my arm, but I had hurt him, and he knew I had hurt him. He walked away without looking back, but his ears were red. I stood there in the middle of the courtyard, heart doing something very strange and very loud, thinking what just happened, and also, what do I do now? Science lab smelled like rubber gloves and regret. I arrived early on Monday because I always arrived early, was a scholarship kid habit, being first, so no one could say you were lazy. I set out the materials, opened the project folder, and told myself that today would be professional, focused. I would treat Ren Ashfield like a classmate and nothing else. He was 7 minutes late. He dropped his bag on the stool next to me, pulled out a pen that he definitely borrowed from someone and never returned, and said, "You started without me. You were late." "I'm always late." "I know." He looked at me sideways. I kept my eyes on the beaker. Our project was on plant cell osmosis, simple, predictable, the kind of project where you could divide the work and barely speak to each other. I had planned it that way on purpose. The problem was that Ren had apparently not read the same plan. "You measured the salt concentration wrong," he said, leaning over to look at my notebook. "I didn't, use 10 grams instead of 5. I looked at the notebook, he was right, I had written 10. I felt heat rise to my face. That was a draft note. "Sure," he said, and he did not sound sarcastic. He just picked up the salt spoon and measured 5 grams like it was nothing. I watched him, he had good hands, precise, steady. He was not what I expected in a lab. I expected careless, I expected the kind of boy who let others do the work and put his name on it. Instead he was focused in a way that felt almost private, like this was the one place where he let himself be quiet. "You actually know what you're doing," I said, before I could stop myself. He glanced at me. "Don't sound so surprised." "I'm not surprised, you had a face." "I don't have faces." "You made a face like you found a 20 in an old jacket," he said, surprised and kind of pleased. I opened my mouth, closed it, turned back to the beaker. We worked in silence for a while, good silence actually, the kind where both people were genuinely focused. "I had not expected that either," then he said, "Why did you agree to the dare?" I thought about lying, thought about saying something easy and dismissive. Instead I said, because backing down would have been worse. He nodded slowly. Marcus is an idiot, he's your friend. People can be idiots and still be your friends, he paused. I didn't know he added your name. I want you to know that. I looked at him. He was looking at the plant sample, not at me, but his jaw was set in that specific way that meant he meant what he had just said. Okay, I said. Okay, he repeated. We went back to work. Halfway through the hour, Priya appeared at the lab window with her face pressed against the glass and her thumbs up. I pointed at her without looking up. She disappeared. Near the end of the period, when we were packing up, Rin said, "You have a good eye for detail. The notation in your notes is clean." It was possibly the most generic compliment in the world. It was about my handwriting. I should not have felt anything about it. I felt something about it. Thanks, I said. He zipped his bag and headed out, and then stopped at the door and looked back. Same time Thursday? That's when the lab is scheduled. Right, he paused. You could just say yes, Kale. He walked out. I stared at the door. He had used my name, not scholarship kid, not hey, my actual name, clean and casual, like he had been saying it for years. I sat down on the lab stool. Priya appeared at the window again. I pointed at her again. She disappeared again. I spent the rest of the day being very normal and very fine and absolutely not thinking about the way Rin said my name, but Thursday was coming and something had shifted. And I did not yet know if that was good or terrifying. Thursday came with rain, not dramatic movie rain, just the gray, steady kind that makes the whole school feel smaller and quieter, the kind that traps people indoors and makes conversations happen that otherwise wouldn't. I got to the lab first again. Old habit, Rin came in 2 minutes late this time, and he was damp, his hair was slightly wet at the ends, which should not have been a detail I noticed, but I noticed it. He shook water off his jacket and sat down. It's raining, he said. I can see that. I'm just saying. We got to work. The project was going well, better than I expected. Our notes were aligned, our observations matched, and we had a natural rhythm in the lab that neither of us talked about, but both of us clearly noticed. Halfway through, I reached for my notebook and knocked it off the counter. It hit the floor and fell open. Ren picked it up faster than I could move. He handed it back without looking at the page, but I had already seen his eyes catch on something. He had seen the sketches in the back of my science notebook. I kept small drawings. I did not tell people about them. They were nothing serious, just quick lines when I was bored, faces and hands, and sometimes the view from the library window. It was a private thing. You draw, he said. No, Kale, it's nothing, it's doodling. He was quiet for a second, then, I used to play piano. I looked at him, used to? My dad thought it wasn't worth the time, not when there were more important things. He said it flat, no drama, like he had said it to himself so many times it had worn smooth. So I stopped. I did not know what to say. This was not the conversation I had prepared for. This was not the run I had prepared for. The run I had prepared for was golden and easy and someone you could stay annoyed at. That's stupid, I said. He looked at me. Your dad, that's stupid of him. Something moved across his face. It was not anger, it was softer than that and somehow more serious. Yeah, he said after a pause, it kind of is. The rain picked up outside. The lab was warm from the equipment running. We stayed later than we needed to, both of us finding extra things to check, extra notes to write, neither of us mentioning that the session had officially ended 15 minutes ago. When we finally packed up, we walked out into the hallway together. It was quiet, most people had gone. "Do you still draw?" he asked, when no one's looking. "You should do it when people are looking too." I thought about saying something deflecting, instead I just said, "Maybe." We reached the split in the hallway where his route went right and mine went left. He stopped, I stopped. There was a second that lasted about 3 years. "Good lab session," he said. "Good lab session," I agreed. He went right, I went left. I walked the whole way back to the dorms with rain on my jacket, and something warm and confusing sitting in my chest. Like it had decided to move in without asking. I did not tell Priya about the piano. It felt like something that belonged to him, not mine to share, but that night, I opened the back of my notebook and drew his hands, steady and precise, the way they looked when he measured salt. I told myself it was just practice, just observation, just art. I was extremely unconvincing. The party was Marcus's idea. It always was, end-of-month bash at someone's big house, everyone invited, the usual mess. I did not want to go. I was a library on Friday night person. Not a house party person, but Priya pulled the best friend card, the one where she said please with her whole face, and I went. The house was loud and hot and full of exactly the kind of social performance I found exhausting. I found a corner with a water bottle and was fully prepared to survive the evening there. Then Rin found me, not found like he was searching, he just appeared in the same corner, also holding a water bottle, also looking like he would rather be somewhere else. He saw me, I saw him, we both looked at the same spot. On the wall for a second. "You don't like parties," I said. "I'm the life of every party," he said. "You're standing in a corner with water, strategically." I almost laughed, I controlled it. "Why are you even here?" "Marcus," he said, and the single word carried the full weight of years of friendship and mild suffering. "You?" "Priya." He nodded like we had just confirmed a very important shared condition. We stood there, the music was loud, people moved past us. Somewhere across the room, Marcus was doing something that would probably be in 3 separate stories by Monday. Then Rin said, "I looked up your name." I turned to look at him. "What?" "Kale, it's not a common name," I looked it up. He was looking at the wall, not at me, which was suspicious. "It means bold." I did not know what to do with that. "Why did you look up my name?" I asked. He shrugged one shoulder, casual, too casual. "Ran," I said. "It came up," he said, which was not an answer. We stood in the corner a while longer. At some point, the music shifted to something slower and quieter. People paired off around us, the room felt different. Run turned to look at me, actually look at me, not the sidelong lab glances, not the quick flicks, straight on, full. His expression was something I had never seen on him before, not the easy smile, not the performance. Just him, unguarded and strange and more interesting than anything I had prepared for. "I'm going to say something," he started. "Okay, and you're not allowed to make a face. I don't make faces, Kale." "Fine, no faces." He opened his mouth, and then Marcus appeared from nowhere. Arm thrown around both our shoulders, smelling like too much of whatever punch they were serving, and yelled something about group photos. The moment shattered, Ren's expression closed back up. He laughed at something Marcus said and let himself be pulled away. I stood in the corner. Whatever he was going to say, I had no idea what it was, but the way his face had looked right before Marcus arrived was something I kept turning over in my mind. Later near midnight, I was waiting for Priya outside when someone appeared beside me. Not Ren, a boy I barely knew, Jamie, a junior, quiet and observant, someone who I had seen around the library. He looked at me thoughtfully. "He talks about you," Jamie said. I looked at him. "What?" "Ren, in the basketball group chat, he brought you up twice this week." He paused. "I'm not telling you this to be weird. I'm telling you because he does not bring people up, ever." Jamie went back inside. I stood in the cool air and everything felt slightly tilted, like the world had shifted 1 degree and was now a different shape. Priya came out and immediately read my face. "What happened?" "Nothing," I said. "Kale, I'm thinking." "About?" I looked at the house, at the warm light in the windows, at everything I could not yet say. "About bold things," I said. Priya looked at me for a long moment. Then she smiled, not the dancing eyes smile, the quiet real one. "Good," she said, "it's about time." The science fair project was submitted, we scored second place, I was okay with that. Ren was not. He stood in front of the results board with his arms crossed and his jaw tight. For a full 30 seconds before sighing and walking away. I followed because it seemed like the right thing to do. We ended up at the small bench behind the gym. It was a place nobody really used, too far from the main buildings, half shaded by the old oak that the groundskeeper kept threatening to cut down. I had found it in my first week at Westgate. Apparently Ren had found it too, because he sat down without hesitation. "Second is fine," I said. "Second is almost first," he said. "That's not how numbers work." He looked at me, then his mouth did the thing, the almost smile, the one that was different from his public smile, smaller, more real. "You something," he said. "Can I tell you something?" He said. My heart did a thing I chose to ignore. "Sure. I've been applying to music schools," he said it quietly, like a secret that had been stored too long, "for next year. There's a conservatory program, they take 12 students. I've been preparing an audition piece since last spring." I stared at him. "Your dad doesn't know." His voice was flat but not cold, just careful. "I practice at Jamie's, he has a piano. I've been going there 3 times a week since sophomore year." I thought about all the afternoons I had seen Ren walking off campus and assumed he was doing something social and golden boyish. He had been going to practice, alone, without telling anyone. "That's brave," I said. He looked at me quickly, like the words surprised him. "What?" I said. "Nobody said that. Everyone who knows says it's risky, impractical." "It is risky," I said, "but you're doing it anyway." "That's brave." He was quiet for a moment, then, "You're easy to talk to." "I'm actually difficult," I said. "Ask Priya." "Priya told me you're the most stubborn person she knows." "When did you talk to Priya?" He looked slightly caught. "She came to find me after the party." I went very still. "She did what?" "She said, and I am quoting, that you were going to be extremely dense about this and someone needed to give you a push." He cleared his throat. "She told me to be direct." "I am going to be so angry at her," I said. "After," he said. "After what?" He turned on the bench to face me. His expression was back, that open, unguarded look from the party, but this time there was no Marcus to interrupt. This time it was just us and the old oak and the sound of wind moving through it. "I like you," he said, simple, direct, no performance. I've been trying to figure out how to say it without making everything weird, but apparently I'm also dense about this, so I'm just saying it. I looked at him, he waited. "The problem with feelings you have been refusing to name is that once someone names them first, the refusal collapses completely, and you're left in a very exposed and honest place with no warning." "I like you too," I said, "which is extremely inconvenient." He blinked, then he laughed, real, surprised, slightly undignified, the best laugh I had ever heard from him. "Why inconvenient?" he managed. "Because I spent 2 weeks trying not to." "Did it work?" "Obviously not." He leaned back against the bench and looked up at the oak and smiled, not the public smile, something private and warm that I had somehow managed to cause. We sat there for a long time. After that, not saying much. It was the best kind of quiet, the kind that doesn't need to be filled, but here is what I did not know yet, what neither of us knew. Marcus had seen us leave together after the science fair results, and Marcus, who was sometimes an idiot and sometimes genuinely mean, had taken a photo of us at the bench from a distance. He hadn't meant anything by it at first, just collecting material, the way he always did, but then someone asked him about Ren, and Marcus made a comment, and somehow by end of the day. The photo was in 4 different group chats with captions that made my stomach drop when Priya showed me her phone at dinner. The caption said, "Ren slumming it with the scholarship boy, guess the dare meant something." I stared at the screen, Priya watched my face, Kale. I handed her phone back, I picked up my tray, I left. I did not answer Ren's message that night or the next morning. Some things, once they're broken by other people's cruelty, take longer to trust again. I avoided him for 5 days, it was not graceful. Westgate High was not a large school and Ren Ashfield was not an invisible person. I had to actively reroute my path 4 times on day 1 alone. I ate lunch in the library, I took the long way to every class. I was so good at avoiding him that I got a full 7 extra minutes of walking in per day. I knew it was cowardly, I knew avoiding things was not the same as solving them, but every time I thought about walking up to him, I saw that photo on Priya's phone, scholarship boy, like those 2 words explained everything, erased everything. Made whatever had been forming between us small and silly. He texted on day 2, "Did I do something wrong?" Day 3, "Kale," day 4, "Okay, I'll wait." I read all of them, I did not respond, I hated myself for it, but the thing about old wounds is that new things can hit them. And all the old pain comes back, loud and immediate, and it is hard to think past it. On day 5, Priya sat across from me in the library and put her phone face down on the table and said, "Talk." "I'm reading." "You've had the same page open for 20 minutes. I closed the book, I looked at the table. "It wasn't his fault," she said, gentle now. "I know, he's been looking for you every day." "I know. So what are you doing?" I thought about how to explain it, when someone like Marcus puts it in those words, scholarship boy. It puts it in a frame, you know, like suddenly the thing you had is being seen in the worst possible way by everyone, and you start to wonder if the worst possible way is actually the real one. Priya was quiet for a moment. "Do you actually believe that?" "No," I said honestly, "but I'm scared of what?" I looked at my hands, of wanting something that isn't built to last. She reached over and flicked my forehead. "Ow, you are so dramatic," she said. He practiced piano in secret for 2 years because he wanted something badly enough to protect it. You think he doesn't understand wanting something badly and being scared of losing it? I thought about the bench, about the quiet, about his laugh. "Go find him," Priya said. I went to find him. He was on the basketball court, not playing, just sitting on the bleachers with his phone and headphones in. He was not listening to music, the headphones were off one ear, dangling, the way people wear them when they're just thinking and don't want to be interrupted. He saw me coming, he didn't move, he waited. I sat down next to him, not on the other end of the bleachers. Right next to him where our shoulders almost touched. He took out both headphones, he looked at me. "I'm sorry," I said, "for disappearing. Are you going to tell me why?" I told him about the photo, about the caption, about the old familiar bruise that words like that left. He went completely still as I talked. When I finished, the stillness turned into something harder. "Marcus," he said, and it was not a question. "It doesn't matter who, it does matter." His voice was controlled but tight. "He's been doing this kind of thing for years and I keep letting it go. Because he stopped, his jaw worked. It's not okay, what he did is not okay. I know. And for the record," he said, turning to look at me, "you are the most interesting person in this school, the scholarship block or the penthouse or wherever." It has never mattered to me for 1 second. I believed him. I realized I had believed him all along, underneath the fear. "I believe you," I said. The tension in his shoulders released slightly. "Don't disappear again," he said quietly, not a demand, just honest. "I won't," I said. We sat on the bleachers until the court lights came on, then we walked back together, side by side, and when his hand bumped mine in the dark, neither of us moved away. It was not a perfect fix, real things rarely are, but it was a beginning. Honest and sturdy and chosen by both of us, and that was enough. 3 weeks later, Ren got an email, he told me before he told anyone else. We were in the bench spot, our spot now, unofficially, and he showed me his phone with his hands not quite steady. The conservatory had reviewed his preliminary application. They were inviting him to submit a live audition video within 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I watched his face cycle through joy and terror in about 4 seconds. "That's incredible," I said. "I haven't told my dad. You need to." "I know," he pocketed his phone. "I've been telling myself I would, and then I keep finding reasons not to." "Ren," he looked at me, "you spent 2 years protecting this, you don't need to protect it from him anymore, you can just own it." He was quiet, then, "Will you come with me when I tell him?" I blinked. "To your house?" "You don't have to, he ran a hand through his hair. "I'm better at hard things when you're around, I don't know why, you just make them feel possible." I went. His house was large and clean and felt formal, even in the living room. His father was a tall, composed man who looked at me with a kind of measuring expression that took people apart and assessed them. I held his gaze steadily and did not look away. Something shifted slightly in the man's face, not warmth, but recognition. Ren talked, he said it clearly without apology, the conservatory, the 2 years, the audition. His father was silent for a long time, then he said, "You should have told me, you would have told me not to." Maybe, a pause, "I want to hear this audition piece." Ren looked at me, I gave him the smallest nod. He got on his phone and played the recording Jamie had helped him make the previous week. It was Chopin, not the famous easy ones, something from the Nocturnes. Slow and searching and deeply private. The living room went very still. I watched Ren's father's face, the composed expression gradually loosening into something softer. When it ended, his father said, "That's been in you this whole time?" "Yes," Ren said. His father stood and left the room. We waited. When he came back, he said, "You'll need a better recording for the submission. I have a colleague with a proper studio." He looked at Ren. Next Saturday. It was not a complete surrender, it was not even a full apology, but it was a door opening. Ren held it together until we were outside, then he sat on the front step and put his face in his hands and breathed in a way that was very close to crying in very much relief. I sat next to him and said nothing, because sometimes nothing is the right thing. After a while, he looked up. "Thank you," he said. "I didn't do anything, you were here." I bumped his shoulder with mine, he bumped back. We sat there in the early evening light, and something settled between us, something that had been forming for weeks and was now fully, quietly real. Not announced, not performed, just there, like the oak tree behind the gym, steady and rooted. "I want to play something for you," he said, "just you, not the audition piece, something else." "Okay," I said, "when this is all done, after the audition video, after everything." "Okay," I said again. He smiled. The real one, the private one that I now understood was one of the rarest things he had. "You're very easy to make promises to," he said. "You're very easy to believe," I said back. He looked at me, steady and warm. "I'm going to kiss you someday," he said very matter-of-factly. "When things settle, I'm just letting you know." I felt heat rise to my ears. That was very formal. I'm a formal person. You are the opposite of a formal person. For this, he said, I'm being formal because you deserve the announcement. I looked at him for a long, quiet moment. "Noted," I said. He laughed, I laughed. The evening light turned golden and we let it. The audition video went well, not perfectly. His hand slipped once in the third movement, a small thing that probably no one but us noticed. But the emotion was there, every note carrying something true and private and brave, and when we watched it back on Jamie's laptop, the room was silent in a very different way from his father's living room. Jamie looked at Ren. "That's it," he said, "that's the one." They submitted it on a Tuesday, then came the waiting, 2 weeks of pretending to be calm. I watched Ren check his email about 11 times a day and say nothing about it. I watched him practice anyway, not the audition piece, but other things, quietly for himself. I watched him be a person that people saw only the surface of, and felt the particular kind of privilege of being someone who got to see underneath. Marcus apologized, by the way, not a grand gesture, just a direct, slightly uncomfortable, "I shouldn't have posted that." It was mean, he said it to both of us. Ryan nodded, I nodded. It was not a warm reconciliation, but it was honest, and sometimes that is better. Priya and Jamie both claimed they had predicted everything from day one. They were both wrong about the timeline. By at least 2 weeks, but I let them have it. On a Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks after the submission, Ren's phone lit up. We were at the bench, our spot. The oak was starting to get its autumn color, small edges of orange in the green. He picked up his phone, read the screen and went completely still. I waited. "I got in," he said, very quietly, like he was testing whether the words were real. "Ren, I got in," louder now. He turned to look at me, and his face was everything. Shock and joy in something that was almost pain, because some good things carry the weight of everything you risked to get there. Kale, I grabbed him, both arms around him, full immediate. He went still for 1 second, and then his arms came around me too, tight and real.